On the morning of September 17, 1993, a Friday with clear skies and mild temperatures in Bonito, Mato Grosso do Sul, marine biologist and experienced diver Cristina Vasconcelos, 32 years old, was preparing for another dive in the region's famous caves. Originally from São Paulo, Cristina had moved to Bonito a few years earlier, enchanted by the crystal-clear waters and the complex system of underwater caves, which made the place a paradise for researchers and diving enthusiasts. The day promised perfect conditions for exploration. With excellent visibility in the waters, Cristina had planned a specific dive in the Blue Lake Cave, one of the region's most well-known tourist spots, but with the intention of exploring a newly discovered passage that few divers had accessed. According to records from the inn where she was staying, she left around 7:30 a.m. after having breakfast and chatting enthusiastically with other guests about her recent discoveries. Cristina was a certified diver with over 500 recorded dives in her logbook. A specialist in underwater caves, she was known for her meticulousness and the strict safety protocols she followed. She had a degree from the University of São Paulo, USP, a master's degree in marine biology, and was dedicated to cataloging new species of fish and aquatic organisms in freshwater caves. Her work had already been published in international scientific journals, and she was about to start a doctorate on the unique ecosystems of Bonito's caves. That day, unlike usual, Cristina decided to dive alone. Her regular diving partner, Carlos Mendes, was suffering from a mild respiratory infection that prevented him from joining her. Later, in a police statement, Carlos would say that he tried to convince her to postpone the expedition, but Cristina was determined to verify a theory about underwater speleothem formations she had formulated the previous week. She assured me it would just be a quick reconnaissance dive with no major risks, Carlos said later. Cristina knew those waters like the back of her hand. The last confirmed sighting of Cristina was made by the tour guide, Paulo Oliveira, who saw her parking her blue Suzuki Jeep at the trailhead leading to the cave around 8:15 a.m. According to Paulo, she seemed calm and focused, methodically checking her equipment before heading down the trail. The guide noted that she was carrying 2 compressed air tanks, a high-powered flashlight, and an underwater camera. She greeted me with her characteristic smile and commented on how perfect the day was for photographing the submerged formations. Paulo recalled. She said she would return in the early afternoon and had an important discovery to share with the scientific community. The alarm was raised only at the end of the day when, by 6 p.m., Cristina had not returned to the inn and did not respond to calls on her pager. At that time, cell phones were still uncommon in rural Brazil. The inn owner, Antonio Silveira, concerned about her unusual delay, contacted Carlos, who immediately organized a preliminary search with 2 other local divers. The team found Cristina's Jeep still parked in the same spot, with her personal bag and documents intact inside the vehicle. Her diving equipment, as well as her spare gear, were organized in the trunk, along with her scientific notebook, where the last entry dated that morning mentioned a possible passage to the unexplored chamber after the 3rd limestone column. Check aragonite formations and possible connection to secondary water system. At 9:07 p.m., the military police and the fire department of Mato Grosso do Sul were officially called in, beginning one of the most complex and mysterious search operations in Bonito's history. Cristina Vasconcelos' search operation mobilized resources never before seen in Bonito. By the early hours of the morning on September 18, 1993, a team composed of 12 firefighters specialized in water rescue, 8 military police officers, and 15 volunteer divers meticulously combed the waters of the Blue Lake Cave and adjacent areas. Major Ricardo Almeida from the fire department personally led the operation. Our first step was to map the most likely areas, Based on the notes found in Christina's notebook and the reports about her objectives for that day, he explained in a press conference held 48 hours after the disappearance. The search conditions were extremely challenging. The Blue Lake Cave, with waters reaching up to 90 meters deep in some areas, presented a complex network of tunnels and underwater chambers, some of which were not fully mapped at the time. The visibility, usually excellent, had been compromised by the increase in the number of divers during the search. On the third day of operations, September 20th, the team found the first concrete clue. One of Christina's compressed air tanks was located near a narrow passage at 43 meters depth, known by local divers as the Siren's Throat. The tank was empty, suggesting that Christina had used all the air in it. That was a crucial moment in the investigation, said Lieutenant Fernando Rodriguez, the lead diver on the search team. The position of the tank indicated that she had taken a rarely explored route, possibly trying to access an unknown chamber. Search efforts intensified in that specific area, but a new challenge emerged. The passage after the point where the tank was found was extremely narrow, allowing only one diver to pass at a time, leading to a complex maze of limestone tunnels. On September 22nd, an unexpected storm hit the Bonito region, raising the water levels and increasing the turbidity. The operations had to be temporarily suspended for safety reasons. During this forced interval, the civil police took over the investigation into the circumstances of Christina's disappearance. Delegate Mauricio Ferreira, responsible for the case, began to explore alternative hypotheses. We needed to consider all possibilities, he said. Although the most likely scenario was an accident during the dive, we couldn't rule out other lines of investigation. The police team interviewed 27 people, including other divers, in-staff, and locals who frequented the area. 2 witnesses reported seeing an unknown vehicle near Christina's Jeep that morning, a piece of information that led to a brief investigative line about a possible premeditated crime. Carlos Mendez, Christina's regular diving partner, was extensively questioned. His relationship with the biologist was meticulously analyzed, revealing that, in addition to being professional colleagues, they had had a brief romantic relationship that ended a few months earlier. This revelation sparked speculation in the sensationalist press of the time, which suggested a crime of passion, a theory quickly dismissed when Carlos's alibi was confirmed by multiple witnesses that an important discovery occurred when investigators analyzed Christina's personal computer. In her files, they found a detailed preliminary study about a possible naturally sealed cave that she believed existed beyond the passage known as the Siren's Throat. In her notes, Christina theorized that geological formations suggested the existence of an isolated chamber, possibly containing air pockets and a unique ecosystem, sealed by natural landslides thousands of years ago. On September 29th, after a week of resumed intense searches with improved weather, Major Almeida made the difficult decision to gradually scale down the operation. We have explored every accessible inch of the underwater caves. Unfortunately, the natural conditions of the region, with extremely narrow and deep passages, make it impossible to continue the search safely for the teams, he stated in a press conference. Christina's family, who had traveled to Bonito shortly after her disappearance, strongly protested the decision to end the search. Her sister, Regina Vasconcelos, said in an emotional interview, "My sister knew the risks, but she also knew her capabilities. We believe there are still chances of finding her." Pressed by the family and public opinion, the authorities kept a smaller team for another 2 weeks. However, no new evidence was found. On October 15, 1993, the official search was finally suspended, and the case was treated as a presumed fatal disappearance. In the following months, alternative theories began to emerge. Some locals claimed that Christina might have discovered a natural or archaeological treasure and been victimized by criminals interested in her discovery. Others speculated about possible undisclosed personal problems that could have led to a voluntary disappearance. However, the official investigation maintained the primary hypothesis of an accident during the solo dive, possibly caused by equipment failure, disorientation in the complex passages, or entrapment in a narrow crack in the cave. The final report by the civil police, completed in March 1994, stated, "Available evidence points to a fatality during diving in a high-risk area with no signs of criminal intervention." For the scientific and diving communities, Cristina Vasconcelos' disappearance served as a harsh reminder of the dangers of cave diving, even for experienced professionals. New safety regulations were implemented in the region, including the prohibition of solo dives and the installation of guide ropes in more complex passages. The case, however, would remain unresolved for 30 long years, fueling local imagination and becoming one of the most talked about legends among the inhabitants and visitors of Bonito. In June 2022, nearly 3 decades after Cristina Vasconcelos' disappearance, an international team of cave divers arrived in Bonito to conduct a complete mapping of the region's underwater cave system, using technologies that didn't exist at the time of the tragedy. The project, funded by National Geographic and the Federal University of Mato Grosso do Sul, aimed to create a 3-dimensional digital atlas of the underground formations. The team was led by renowned Australian cave diver Michael Thompson, who had participated in similar expeditions in several countries. Bonito represents one of the most fascinating and least understood underwater cave systems in the world, Thompson said in an interview with the local press. "Our mission is to map areas never before accessed and better understand the unique geology of this region." Equipped with underwater 3D scanners, high-precision sonars, and underwater drones capable of navigating narrow passages inaccessible to humans, the team began the mapping at the Blue Lake Cave, coincidentally the same location where Cristina had disappeared. On August 12, 2022, during the analysis of the data collected by the drones, the team made a surprising discovery. The sonar images revealed the existence of an isolated chamber located beyond a narrow fissure, approximately 57 meters deep, near the spot where Cristina's air tank had been found in 1993. What caught our attention was that this chamber seemed completely isolated from the main system, with only an extremely narrow passage connecting it, explained Brazilian geologist Dr. Fernanda Almeida, part of the research team. And this passage showed signs of being partially blocked by a natural landslide. The discovery reignited interest in Cristina's case. Thompson, who knew the story of the disappearance, immediately noticed the correlation with the theories the biologist had recorded in her notes. It was exactly the kind of formation she predicted would exist in that area. Cristina was right in her hypotheses, 30 years before we had the technology to confirm them, he said. The team requested special authorization from IBAMA and the National Center for Cave Research and Conservation, CHELSIV, to attempt access to the isolated chamber. After months of risk analysis and meticulous preparation, the expedition was authorized for January 2023. On January 17th, exactly at 10:43, an unexpected event occurred during the preparatory work. The team was using small controlled charges to slightly widen the passage when a section of the limestone wall naturally gave way, revealing an opening larger than expected. It was as if the cave itself had decided to reveal its secrets, Thompson described. A significant portion of the wall collapsed with minimal intervention from us, creating a safe passage where there had previously been only an impassable fissure. 2 days later, on January 19th, Thompson and 2 team members conducted the first dive into the newly accessible chamber. What they found left them astonished. Approximately 15 meters from the chamber's entrance, their flashlights illuminated what appeared to be diving equipment. My heart stopped for a moment Thompson later reported. There, floating in a vertical position in incredibly clear and cold water, was a human figure wearing full diving equipment. The team had found the body of Cristina Vasconcelos preserved in an extraordinary way by the unique conditions of the isolated chamber. The constant temperature of 8 degrees Celsius, the almost total absence of bacteria due to the chamber's isolation, and the high mineral concentration created conditions similar to a natural preservation process. Cristina was wearing her full gear, including her second air tank and her underwater camera, still attached to her wrist. Her body was floating about 2 meters from the bottom of the chamber, in a state of preservation that experts would later describe as exceptional. News of the discovery spread quickly, generating national coverage. The recovery of the body required a meticulously planned operation, which took place on January 23rd, with the involvement of forensic experts from the Campo Grande Legal Medical Institute, archaeologists, and representatives of the Vasconcelos family. The autopsy conducted on Cristina Vasconcelos' body revealed crucial details that finally explained the mystery of her disappearance. The official report, released on February 7, 2023, by the Mato Grosso do Sul Legal Medical Institute, presented surprising conclusions. The state of preservation of the body was remarkable, explained Dr. Ricardo Montero, the forensic doctor responsible for the autopsy. The low temperatures, the high mineralization of the water, and the isolation of the chamber created conditions similar to natural mummification, allowing for detailed analysis even after 30 years. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation by drowning, but the true mystery lay in the circumstances that led to this outcome. The analysis of the diving equipment and the evidence found at the site allowed investigators to reconstruct the events of that fateful September 17, 1993. Cristina had discovered the narrow passage leading to the isolated chamber and, driven by scientific curiosity, decided to explore it. Her previous notes suggested that she had correctly theorized the existence of this space, which would later be officially named the Cristina Chamber in her honor. The biologist had managed to pass through the narrow fissure, probably with great difficulty. Once inside the chamber, she began photographing the unique formations. The last images on her camera, recovered with modern technology, showed speleothems that had never before been documented. The tragedy occurred when Cristina tried to return. Geological analysis of the passage indicated that a small natural landslide had occurred, possibly triggered by the diver's own passage, partially blocking the only exit from the chamber. The limestone marks and fracture patterns indicate that there was a natural collapse on that day, explained Dr. Paulo Mendes, the geologist who participated in the investigation. It was an unstable formation that could have collapsed at any time. Unfortunately, it happened when Cristina was inside. The evidence suggested that she desperately tried to clear the passage. Scratch marks were identified on the rock, and her nails were damaged, consistent with attempts to remove stones and sediment. The air in her second tank eventually ran out during these attempts. Analysis of the equipment showed that her emergency regulator had failed due to a manufacturing defect, further reducing her available time. A poignant detail was discovered in her equipment. Cristina had managed to turn on her emergency flashlight and position it towards the blocked passage, possibly hoping that rescue teams could locate her. Unfortunately, the light was not visible from the outside due to the twisted configuration of the passage. What made the case even more tragic was the discovery that the chamber had a natural air pocket at its upper part. The evidence indicated that Cristina had discovered this airspace and attempted to use it to extend her survival. Marks on the rock above the water level showed that she had managed to emerge into this pocket of air. She did everything right. She followed all possible protocols in such an extreme situation, Thompson stated. The tragedy was that this air pocket although large enough for her to keep her head above water, was closed and lacked circulation. The available oxygen gradually ran out. Analysis of her lung tissue confirmed this theory. Christina had not died immediately, but after several hours inside the chamber, when the oxygen in the air pocket became insufficient to keep her conscious, causing her to lose consciousness and submerge. On her wrist, still attached to a waterproof bracelet, was her small emergency notebook, where she had written her last words. The 17th of September 93, blocked passage. Will try to conserve air. If someone finds this incredible chamber, new species, unique crystals, tell my family I love them. Keep researching. The discovery of Christina's body and the elucidation of the circumstances surrounding her death brought much-needed closure to her family. Regina Vasconcelos, now 65 years old, said in an interview, "For 3 decades, we lived in uncertainty. Now we can finally give Christina a dignified rest and celebrate her scientific legacy." The impact of the case extended far beyond solving a mystery. The discoveries in the Christina chamber confirmed the theories that the biologist had formulated 30 years earlier. The sealed cave indeed contained a unique ecosystem with 3 species of crustaceans and a species of blind fish, previously unknown to science. In March 2023, the University of São Paulo, where Christina had graduated, announced the creation of the Christina Vasconcelos Research Center, dedicated to the study of cave ecosystems. Her recovered notes and photographs became the foundation for several posthumous scientific publications. The case also led to significant changes in safety protocols for cave diving in Brazil. IBAMA and diving associations implemented new regulations, including mandatory underwater communication, systems for scientific expeditions, and the use of advanced mapping technology before exploring unknown areas. September 17, 2023, exactly 30 years after her disappearance, a ceremony was held at the entrance of the Blue Lake Cave. A commemorative plaque was unveiled with the inscription, "In memory of Christina Vasconcelos, 1961 to 1993, visionary scientist who gave her life for discovery." Her theories, confirmed 3 decades after her death, continue to inspire new generations of researchers. The story of Christina Vasconcelos remains a testament to both the dangers and rewards of scientific exploration. Her determination to seek knowledge, even in the face of significant risks, led to discoveries that were only fully understood and appreciated decades after her death. As Michael Thompson reflected in the conclusion of his report on the expedition, there is a tragic beauty in the fact that Christina remained all these years exactly where she made her greatest discovery, the chamber she theorized about and managed to find before any other human, became both her greatest scientific triumph and her final resting place. The discovery of Christina Vasconcelos' body closed a chapter in the history of Bonito, but opened many others in the fields of biology and speleology. Her legacy continues to live on in the crystal-clear waters she loved, and in the new generations of scientists who, inspired by her courage and dedication, continue to uncover the hidden mysteries in the heart of the earth. If you watched until the end, it's because you care about these cases that mark families forever. Leave a comment saying, "I watched until here, so I can get to know you and see who really cares about the search for the truth." Don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who are also interested in real-life cases and mysteries finally solved.